Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Digital German FP&A Board. Today we've got a very exciting topic of the new age of zero-based budgeting. My name is Hans Gobin. I am FP&A Trend Ambassador, and today I'll be your facilitator. Just in terms of stats, let me tell you that we have over 300 people joining us for this event today, and mostly from Germany, but also from another 42 countries. So let me take you through what we have in store today. Before that, there's a page out here for you on previous meeting. Please take the time and have a read through it. In terms of agenda, what do we have for you today? So we're going to look at the new age of zero-based budgeting, learning, successes, evolution, zero-based FP&A. After that, we'll look at the mindset change for finance transformation. So what does that mean? We'll also look at risk planning in ZBB, especially around what's happened during the COVID period and how Pharmanovia have taken that into consideration within their ZBB and done it very, very well. Lots to learn there. And we will finish off the presentation by looking at ZBB technology enablers. We will do conclusions and recommendation, and then we will go on to the Q&A session. Now, a very good time for me to introduce my fellow panelists. So fellow panelists, if you can join on the webcam and please go off mute as well. I would like to start introduction from Gregor's. So even though I come first, but you guys can read that at your leisure. So our first presenter after myself will be Gregor's Commenda, who is Director of Finance and Business Planning at Philip Morris, Switzerland. And today he will share with us all about mindset change, the way of working, the ZBB way of working, the benefits, etc. Of that. Gregor's, fantastic to have you on the panel today.
Thank you, Hans, and also very nice to be here and share my perspective. But also, I'm looking forward to hear from other presenters and learn something new. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gregor's. Let us move on to Mohamed El Ruby, who's CFO Middle East Africa at Pharmanovia. And as I said in the beginning, Mohamed will talk to us about risk planning in ZBB, a case study that he himself carried out. Mohamed, great to have you again with us.
Thank you very much, Hans, and it's my great pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And then finally, we have Antonio Gianelli, who is finance business development expert at SAP, and of course he will give us the technology spin as far as ZBB is concerned and how technology can help us move it to the next level. So Antonio, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Hans, and thank you to all the attendees, and also very happy to be with this set of panelists and have this great opportunity. So sorry for the mask, but in France we have to keep it at the office, but I will just keep it there and use it if someone is coming.
Absolutely, not a problem at all. So we have, as Antonio said, he's joining us from Paris. We've got Mohamed, who's joining us from Dubai, and we've got Gregor's joining us from Zurich. So guys, very welcome. If you can turn your webcam off and go on mute, I've still got a few housekeeping slides to go through. Thank you. Moving on very quickly, today we bringing the Frankfurt chapter. But of course, we are joined by other countries. And just as a reminder, we are in 27 cities, 16 countries, 4 continents. And also like to highlight that we also now started to do best practice workshop and FP&A consultancy. For those who haven't attended our webinars before, it is a 90 minutes webinar. We want you to participate, and the way to do that is via our polling questions. So please give us your insight on the polling. There is an interactive Q&A session at the end of our webinar. Please ask us question. You can ask question now via the chat box or after each presentation. But please let us know which presenter you want us to direct those questions to. Keep asking. We'll have time for a few today. The rest we will definitely answer to you directly via email. The presentation is available for you to download today. If you don't, you will still get a copy of the recording and presentation within a couple of days of the meeting. Finally, just a quick reminder that after the session, when I close it, please give us 30 seconds of your time. Do the survey for us, the feedback session. It's very important to know how we did, but also to find out, is there anything in particular you would like to hear from us in the next session? A quick thank you to SAP here, who is today our technology partner. We all know SAP very well, one of the world's leading providers of modern FP&A solution. So today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about zero-based FP&A. We're going to talk about mindset change, risk management, and technology. And I will definitely take the first one, which is around learnings and successes of ZBB, but also what does zero-based FP&A mean? So without further ado, let me just take you through something here. Did you know that ZBB was created more than 50 years ago by a Texas Instrument engineer? At that time, already we had issues with traditional budgeting and weaknesses. In the 1970s, ZBB became very popular. And one of the leading men to make it very popular was, of course, Jimmy Carter. And he said, if I'm elected president, I'm going to the Institute of Zero-Based Budgeting, which assesses every program every year and eliminates those programs that are obsolete. And guess what? He did. He used it before, during his term, and even after his term. So what is zero-based budgeting? Zero-based budgeting is a method of developing a budget from scratch or zero-based by examining all the cost or P&L and the balance sheet item without regard to prior year's activity or results. It is not about doing the same thing with less resources at all. It's more about identifying activities and business drivers that are vital to those business and focusing resources on those. And once we have identified those vital activities, we think about how best to deliver it for our stakeholders. So let's move on to see on the next slide the evolution of ZBB. Budget, as we know, is not associated with flexibility at all and dynamics, especially in the day of uncertainty. A very quick search you can do on Google on major consultancies. What are they talking about on zero-based budgeting? Today, it's all about zero-based everything. Zero-based supply chain, zero-based mindset, zero-based marketing, zero-based productivity. And we at the FP&A board level, we have introduced the zero-based FP&A, which is all about value creation. So what does that entail? Zero-based FP&A applies zero-based concept to the overall planning process framework. Most importantly, it helps us to identify underlying business and value drivers. And then these are subject to zero-based examination, as we would have done before. More importantly, the exercise is not solely applicable to expenses. What we are looking at now within the zero-based FP&A is the whole of the P&L, the whole of the balance sheet, and the whole of the cash flow as well. In other words, zero-based FP&A helps us to remove unnecessary fat from traditional plans and forecasts and to enhance the understanding of key value drivers. So let us now move on and look at a few stats. What is that new age of zero-based budgeting? They are from 2019 and they are from an Accenture survey. So 300 odd companies that did the survey were using ZBB. More than 90% used it mainly for cost reduction. Guess how much money they saved? 280 million per year on average. And that was 10 to 25% cost reduction within 6 months. So fantastic stats there. However, we also have some concerns, as you well know. It may not be the best method for every company. For example, those who are more innovative may be willing to take chances and spend on projects that may not be viewed as the most effective. So of the 238 companies that announced cost reduction program, only 26% were able to sustain the reduction for 4 years. Only 17% were able to grow at the same time. So as we know, it's all about cost reduction, but also what are the benefits? It's about growth. What is that new? What is new in ZBB? As I mentioned before, it's about P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow, not only expenses. It's about identifying key value drivers. It's about thinking how traditional budgeting processes used to work and how they're working now. Very much emphasis on business partnering, and technology makes it a lot easier. And we will hear on all of these aspects from the next 3 speakers that we have in line today. So moving on. For me, ZBB is on overall planning. It's to P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow. And now I would like to invite my fellow panelists to come and join me. And I've got a question to put out to everyone. So fellow panelists, if you can put your webcam on, join me, and let's have a discussion as to what you guys are doing within your own organization. So have your organization adopted a full P&L and cash flow view to ZBB? Are you looking at just costs, or are you going down the line of looking at all? If not, how do you move on from there? Can I start by Gregos? So Gregos, what would your answer be?
Thank you, Hans. I think in case of my organization, because of the ways we are also organized within the bigger picture, the focus is mostly on the P&L. However, we really take, and you will hear it from my presentation later, we really take it like end-to-end P&L. So we look at cost, but we look at what comes out of this cost. So this cost benefit is key element of our zero-based approach.
Fantastic. It's good to know. Of course, you've got a plan to move on from just cost, which is great to hear. Mohammed, what is your answer to this question? What are you doing in Pharmanovia?
Yeah, thank you, Hans. Actually, in our company, we are not focusing only on the OPEX or the cost part. We are focusing on the overall business drivers. So we focus on our revenue drivers. We build a bottom-up exercise for every single revenue drivers, and the same for OPEX. And as mentioned by Gregos, the balance sheet and cash flow are linked already to the P&L. So the starting point is the P&L, but we have to look at the overall picture of our business.
Fantastic, thank you, Mohammed. And Antonio, would you like to add anything as far as technology is concerned, or anything else, please?
Absolutely. Well, as you can imagine, I will not talk for the finance of SAP, but I can talk for the customers that have been meeting about these subjects. And it is true that I remember one customer told me, the fact that we are doing zero-based budgeting does not mean that we are allowed a longer process. We need to stay in the small time that we have. In order to do that, he said, we definitely need the right insight, the right level of detailed data, the appropriate drivers, and therefore we need all the aspects, operational, financial, to be given by the technology. And that's what the technology can offer, absolutely.
Fantastic, great insight there. We saw Gregos, who is on his way to utilizing or going beyond the cost structure. Mohammed has already started that, and of course, Antonio, you've just mentioned you seeing organizations already adopting that. Of course, they've got to start somewhere with ZBB and move on to the zero-based ZBB for FP&A, as we call it. So panelists, thank you very much for that. Let us now move on and look at what our audiences are saying. So if we can turn our webcam off and launch the first polling questions. So I've just launched it. And here what we want to know is, are you guys using ZBB? So how would you describe your experience with ZBB within your organization? Is it non-existent? Is it theoretical, so a little bit? Is it successful practical experience, or we are using it? Or are we using it, but it's not very successful? If you can vote, please. So I'll give you a few more moments and I'll read it again. So how would you describe your experience with ZBB? Is it non-existent? Is it theoretical only? Or is it successful practical experience or unsuccessful practical experience? You're working with it, but it doesn't really work very well. So I'm now going to close the polling question, and I'm now going to share it very quickly with our audiences. So 25% said non-existent completely, 48% theoretical, 21% are using it and find it successful, 5% unsuccessful practical experience. If I can ask Gregors and Mohammed to give us some insight. Gregors, you may start.
Yes, well, interesting outcome, I would say. It's great to see that most people know about it, so which I think is a good start. So what I could only say, I would encourage everyone to, those who said not existent, to move to theoretical, and those who theoretical really to move starting using it, because the benefit is great.
Absolutely. Mohammed, what would be your quick comment?
Yeah, actually, the main observation I can see, which is the theoretical one, I guess 50% of the people think it's theoretical. This is why our role as a finance professional is to raise the awareness and the benefits of the zero-based budgeting. And also, this is our role as an FP&A as well, you know, inside our organizations and even for the whole finance community. We have to emphasize on the importance of ZBB budgeting and turn it from being a theoretical to be a practical and successful experience.
Fantastic. No, absolutely spot on, both of you. Move the 25% into theoretical and push the theoretical into applying it. Of course, unsuccessful 5%, but of course, it's not an easy process, as we will learn from our presenters next anyway. So thank you very much for that. Let me hide that. And now let us move on to our next session, which will be on mindset. And to deliver that, we've got Gregors Komenda, who's Director of Finance Business Planning at Philip Morris, all about mindset change. So, Gregors, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans. And I wanted to start my part with a short statement, which is that in today's world, which is defined by the rapid change and constant innovation and permanent disruption, joining the transformation journey is the only way to stay in the business. And I think most of you would agree with this statement, that this is relevant in the context of this meeting. I think it is relevant for finance in particular. Today I will talk how ZBB enabled finance transformation in my company, in Philip Morris International. We've been using ZBB, concept of ZBB, for quite a while in the company, but I would say it was at different levels of maturity or advancement at different geographies of different business units, rather fragmented. And since 4 or 5 years ago, the company decided to take it on a more standardized level and to start using it in a disciplined and consistent manner. And I think it is not coincidence that this happened short after PMI announced its big transformation that I will talk a bit about now. So on this slide, I will explain what the PMI transformation is. Most of you will probably know PMI for cigarette brands such as Marlboro, which probably is most known. However, a couple of years back, PMI decided to reinvent its future. We came up with the technology which is called Heat Not Burn. And this future is without cigarettes and without smoking, which I think for the cigarette company, that's quite a bold statement. I'm not going to talk about the detail of the transformation. You can find it in our website in some publications. I'm more going to talk about how this transformation impacted the way we work and the way we approach the challenges and opportunities. For example, we used to work mostly in the past pre-transformation time we used to work with mostly big wholesalers, big distributors, and big retail chains. Now it's much more about building the personal relationships with each individual user of our product. Similarly, we are shifting from bulk transactions with those big wholesalers and distributors to really an ecosystem of products and services over the consumer journey. All this has a huge impact on finance teams. We need to adapt to this new reality and develop a new skill set and mindset to effectively deal with it. And ZBB comes here as a help. Our transformation in particular required a big, very significant resource shift from old category, from cigarettes to the new category. And ZBB almost forced us to go to the bottom, to the root, to understand what our base is. And as a result, we were able to allocate resources with required level of diligence and relevance for the business. My learning from the journey, from our ZBB journey, is the following. It's not about a specific execution or system or a process. It's all, of course, very important, but all this starts with what I call mindset, ZBB mindset. And let me explain what I mean. On this slide, for me, ZBB is a continuous attempt to fully understand your base. It's the base in terms of cost, but also in terms of what those costs produce, what this investment produces. It's in a way, it gives you opportunity to always stay up to speed with all business dynamics, or ideally you even get ahead of them. In the context of continuous business transformation, this mindset will help you to accelerate the finance transformation. For example, on this slide, we will see that this ZBB mindset will help you to gain better and broader business perspective. How we do it in Philip Morris in Switzerland is by placing finance team members in all main projects or initiatives that are running currently in the organization. This way, the people can learn and stay up to speed with all the decisions and discussions. They know what's going on from the source, but most importantly, they can also influence the decision also at the source. With such level of business acumen, you can act at speed, which is also very important. You can almost anticipate what will happen and get ready for this potential course of action. And this way, your business counterparts can always count on you when they need you. And we started calling this even co-piloting versus the business partnering, which I think describes this proactiveness or driving dimension of such approach. Another example could be applying a business view rather than accounting view. What I mean here is that with zero-based mindset, you will very well know which investment or cost line is associated with which business outcome of which revenue line. And it doesn't matter whether it's accounted for as marketing expense or sales allowance or overhead. And we introduced in the company the concept, what we call consumer income statement, where we apply this logic. And this is the way that we report costs and revenues, but also this is how we budget for it, which is also much more relevant and speaking to our business counterparts. And lastly, and probably this is most important from my perspective, is this applying 80-20 rule. In today's very dynamic environment, I think it's very important to pick your battles. I would say it's better to do 5 things right rather than 50 things so-so. Yes, and with ZBB mindset and your deep business understanding, you know where value sits. And then you are able to set the priorities right in order to maximize the overall business outcome. So all this is, of course, not easy. It doesn't come in one overnight. And on this slide, what I wanted to highlight is the investment behind it. And this investment is, of course, in the systems and processes, but it's also investment in people, because you need to transform and your teams from, I would say, traditional finance into new finance. And in order how we did this, in order to do it, we did it in 2 steps. First, we mapped what are the current capabilities of our people versus the ones that are required in the future. And that started with clear definition of this new skill set. You need to know what people will need in order to successfully execute this zero-based approach. And this goes clearly beyond classical finance skills, because it involves, for example, much more complex and huge data sets, and how to manage these data sets in a way that then you can produce the outcome that can be understandable and readable and relevant for your business counterparts. And then once you have this defined, you need also to give people a robust tool that will allow them to assess how do they stand versus those new capabilities. And once this is done, you need to provide a targeted learning offer. Targeted meaning for everyone, there will be a different combination of where they are today versus where they need to be. And then everyone should be able to pick the right learning piece to develop those required areas. And once that's done, they need to have the opportunity to really practice. Otherwise, it will stay at the theoretical level. So what is key here is that you have full buy-in from your teams. They need to know why they do it. And on this slide, what I wanted to highlight on the next one is exactly this. Why would we do it? It requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of effort to move to the zero-based mindset. However, there is quite a huge price for finance teams. Firstly, you become even more relevant partner for your business colleagues. So you have this satisfaction. You gain seat at the table, and then you can influence the direction your business will take. In other words, you become a driving force, as opposed to support function, which I heard quite often as a reference or description of finance teams. And also in the growing competition for talent, applying this mindset and transforming the jobs, you make them much more appealing to potential candidates. Therefore, it's much easier to compete for best talents in a market. And with this, thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer questions when they come. You are on mute, Hans.
Hans, you are on mute, Hans.
Sorry, Gregors, I was, of course, on mute. So thank you very much for that. Lots of good messages there. I think the key thing there for me, which is not on this page, I would like to highlight it, is understanding those drivers, the deeper understanding of the business that ZBB brings to the team, to the business as well. And of course, highlighted here is it is a way of working completely. And of course, for me as well was the buy-in. Panelists, please join me. We've got a very interesting question that we would like to put to the other 2 panelists as well, is, what are those challenges in creating a mindset change as far as ZBB is concerned? And how did you meet those challenges? Mohammed, I know you've got a great case study coming along. Please tell us about changing mindset to make sure that ZBB worked within your company, please, and then we'll go to Antonio.
Yeah, thank you, Hans, and thank you, Gregos, for the great presentation. What I can share that the biggest resistance came from our stakeholders, which is the ZBB budgeting is a very long exercise. They see it like a very exhausting exercise. It takes too much time from them, getting in too much detail. So it's a very, very overwhelming exercise for our stakeholders. So how can we help our stakeholders, as mentioned by Antonio, that we need to leverage technology? This will help us and help them to, work more efficient and to work more agile. The second point, which is selling to them the benefits of having a zero-based budgeting. Once we have a zero-based budgeting, we can have more resources, more fund to fund better, more projects, more new product launches. So once we have a better and efficient zero-based budgeting, we can work more efficient and we can reallocate our resources to the right projects and the right products. Yeah, and that's from my side.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Mohammed. Antonio, what would you like to add, please?
Well, I would say two key points during the presentation. Thank you very much, Gregors. First of all, the mindset of isolated application. I've seen that very often in customers, and really the alignment between systems, among systems, is a necessity for the process to be fluid, exactly what you said, Mohammed. So for me, this can be offered by a platform that is integrated. And second point was the volumes. I saw the transformation you are going through. So clearly, what I see also with other customers is that transformation are requesting increasing insights of data. You go from B2C to B2B. Sorry, to B2B from B2C. Well, this is enormous. This means that technology has to give the business perspective, the business view, and this requires the right artificial intelligence technology to provide the insight out of this amount of data.
Absolutely spot on there, both of you. Technology definitely will help to make people believe in ZBB, because as Mohammed rightly said, and Gregor's also said, that it is a lot of hard work initially, once you get going, etc. And once you have a tool that is doing it for you, you've got the parameters set, etc. It does help, and it is a lot less a requirement from the people in finance, the people in FP&A. Absolutely. So thank you very much for the presentation, Gregors, and members, for your insight to this question. Let us now quickly move and look at the next polling question that I've got here. And here, what we want to understand, we looked at mindset change. We want to know how many of your people within your organization do you think supports ZBB? So what percentage of ZBB change agents do you have or supporters within your organization? Is it less than 10%, 10 to 40%, 41 to 70, or more than 70%? We want to find out, how well it is accepted and what we can do to change those opinions. So if you can vote, please. What percentage of ZBB change agents or supporters do you have in your organization? Less than 10%, 10 to 40%, 41 to 70, and more than 70%. So please vote. I'm now going to close the polling, and I will share the answers, which is 55% say less than 10%, 37% say 10 to 40, 4% 41 to 70, and then finally 4% more than 70 again. If I can ask Gregors and Mohammed to join us and give us some comment, please. Gregors, what will be your insight on this?
From my perspective, okay, less than 10% to be that we have the biggest proportion. That is probably a bit worrying. But I think then the good news is that the next biggest one is 10 to 40. And I think we are talking about supporter of change agents. With this amount of change agents, I think you are very well positioned to roll out successfully ZBB in the organization.
Fantastic, spot on there. And Mohammed, what is your insight, please?
Yeah, as mentioned by Georgs, I believe there is a good improvement that we can see 37% within 10 to 40%. However, the 55%, we still do a lot of work from our side. We need to, raise the awareness of the benefits of the BBAB, and at the same time, also we need to leverage technology and convince the management to spend more and more in technology in order to make the process more efficient, more easy for stakeholders in order to get their buy-in.
Absolutely spot on there. I think, making sure that it is not so much tasking on people by leveraging technology and anything else we can move those 55% and 37% to the 4%, which is 41 and onwards. So thank you very much for that. Let me hide this and let us now move on to our next presentation. And just before we do that, let me just ask the audience, please, can you send your question via the chat box? If we will answer a few of them today, the rest we will answer via email. Now that you've heard myself and Gregor speak, any questions for us, please put them through. So let us move on to our second or third presentation for today, which is from Mohammed El Ruby, CFO, Middle East Africa at Pharmanovia. And he will give us a case study of how he prioritize risk planning in ZBB within his organization. So, Mohammed, over to you whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hans, and it's my great pleasure being here today. As you mentioned, Hans, and also Greco's importance of ZBB budgeting, and it's very important for us to create value. Our role is as an FP&A not just to control activities or to make some performance reporting or management reporting. Our role also is to create value and to really create a true value to our organization. But at the same time, also we need to consider another important element, which is the risk. All of us, yes, are pushing to have ambitious target. We need to push for more revenue and more EBITDA and more cash flow for our organization. But we have to consider something very important in our ZBB, which is the risk element. So in my presentation today, I'm going to share with you a very practical business case. And I implemented that project in my organization during the COVID-19 pandemic issues. And at that time, there was a lot of uncertainty at that time. So I will share with you what we have done and how we helped our business partners in FP&A in order to quantify the risk, identify the risks, and include the risk in our ZBB budgeting. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we have to ensure the balance between pushing the business to grow more and more, and at the same time, considering the risk, highlighting the risk, quantifying the risk. So this is the areas that we need to ensure the balance in it. So in the next slide, I will share with you what was the scope of the project I have implemented in my company. It was a global pharmaceutical company. And at the time of the implementation, it was the beginning of the COVID-19 and the pandemic. So everyone inside our organization was talking about risks. Our supply chain team was talking about risk. We have many risks area. Commercial team was talking about risks. Regulatory team, pricing team, everyone was talking about risks. But no one helped our business partners to quantify the risks. How can we include the risks in our budgeting process? So I saw my role as a head of FP&A to help my business partners to identify the risk, quantify the risk from different dimensions using our business acumen, our business understanding, and asking our business partners the right questions in order to helping them to quantify our risks. So after deep dive discussion with all of our business partners, we identify 16 key areas that we have to identify and assess and quantify the risk for those 16 areas. So from supply chain team, after deep dive discussion with our supply chain team, we identified 4 key areas that we have to quantify in our budgeting. Number 1, manufacturing sites. So from manufacturing sites, many factories at that time had an issue in supplying the goods on time. So we asked our supply chain team, which manufacturing site you see a risk? How much risk do you expect? Do you think is it just timing or phasing, or do you see a big drop in our full year numbers? From logistics, also, we saw a lot of delays in flights, a lot of delays in vessels and the commitment by our freight forwarders. So we work with our supply chain team to quantify the risk came from our logistics part. Also from inventory, we had two opposite sides. The first one is some customers asked us for higher inventory higher than the normal level of inventory because of the COVID-19, and they wanted to have a safety stock in their warehouses. At the same time, we had another extremely case. Some distributors asked us for very low inventory side because they had financial issues. So we have to quantify both requirements from our customers, and also we have to reassess our demand planning again. So we sit with our supply chain team, we quantified all of those risks that has been highlighted. The next example, which was with our commercial team. So I sit with our commercial team, our sales force, our commercial directors, and we said in our pharmaceutical company, what are the key risks? Number one, regularly we had to receive new rules, new governmental regulations because of the COVID-19. So we have to be up to date with all of these regulations and assess what is the impact of our business. If they did not allow our sales force to visit hospitals and visit pharmacies, what can we do? How can we improve our business? How can we achieve our target? So we have to be up to date with the governmental requirements, and we have to assess the impact of that. Also, our field force availability, there was a big risk because our field force, they didn't get the chance to meet doctors, meet hospitals, meet customers, to promote for our products. So what is the impact of the inavailability of our sales force? We have to quantify that one as well in our budget. And again, from our consumption, from our in-market sales, what is the impact of COVID-19 and what is the impact of the pandemic on our sales numbers? So we worked closely with our commercial team to assess all the types of risks that impacted our business. Another example, we sit with the regulatory team and with our market access team in order also to quantify the risks. So we had in the pipeline some products that expected to be launched. So definitely we expected some delays in the launches because of the pandemic and because of the COVID situation. Pricing, so sometimes also the governmental and the MOH did not approve the price changes on time because of the less frequent of the meeting by the committees and by the Ministry of Health in certain countries. So we have to assess all of those types of risks. And again, our role as an FP&A to be in the heart of the organization, in the middle of the organization, connecting all the dots, sitting with all functions to assess the risk from all dimensions. And the key success factor, beside being a true business partners, beside high level of collaboration, is to ask business the right questions. And as mentioned by my colleague Gregos, he mentioned that one of the important change in our mindset, which is understanding our business very well. We are not just a financial analyst or accountant or whatever. We have to be a business leader. We have to understand our business very well in order to ask our business partners the right questions, in order to understand the real external and internal factors that impacted our business. So after concluding all the checklist from all of our stakeholders, we implemented the tools that I'm going to share with you in the next slide. So in the tool, it was our role to quantify the risks. So from our checklist, we identified the risks, we understood the risks, but we have, as a finance people, to quantify the risks. So we created this template, we put all the needed dimensions from each risk aspect, and we asked our business partners to give us the probability for each risk, what is the value for each risk, and also we put it on a quarter basis or monthly basis in order to understand also the timing of the risks in order to include it in our budgeting tool. Once we got all the inputs from our stakeholders, from our business partners across all functions, we would be able to quantify the risks and include it in our budgeting after very good exercise and after deep dive discussion with all of our business partners. Also, our role as a business partners or the FP&A business partners is not only to support business and support the company's growth. We shouldn't forget our role, and we shouldn't forget that we are the finance people. We have to ensure governance. So in the next slide, I also developed the governance of that project, the governance of collecting the risks the risks input, and how can we collect the data, how can we present the data, what is the process and the governance of this process. So we started the process by, number one, give orientation and the training to all of our business partners about the new tool, how to use it, how to input your risk items, how can you put all the other mandatory fields. Then we shared the template with all of our business partners, and we asked them to fulfill all of the needed quantified risks. And then our role as an FP&A, we had to consolidate the input from all functions. Then we have to deliver a meaningful and insightful update to our management. So we turned the consolidated risks and quantified template into a meaningful reports, and we had to have a weekly meeting with our general manager and with our key business directors, to sharing with them up to date the risks and the quantified risks. And we succeeded during this year to achieve our target. We succeeded to manage the risk because we had full visibility of the risks, and we was able to monitor the risk on weekly basis. So you can imagine how we was up to date with everything. And the big success factor in this one is the mindset of the FP&A in order to help all business partners and connecting the dots and assessing the risks. Thank you very much for listening, and feel free to send your questions, and I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much.
Mohammed, excellent presentation. It shows the level of detail and the amount of work you guys put through in Pharmanovia in terms of just making sure all aspects of risk were quantified and were put on the table, and then also went into the ZBB process. Of course, initially it's hard work, but once you get it, once the template is set, etc., it's a lot easier to go through. Thank you very much for that. And I think the governance process that you've touched towards the end of it is also very, very important, because you want to make sure it's a loop, it's a circle, and you're constantly reviewing everything. So thank you very much for that. Why don't the other members join us? For me, there was two key conclusions there. It was about maintaining business growth, which you started with, and also dealing with uncertainty. But I also have a question to put to the panelists. So during COVID-19 or any other uncertain period, how would you have integrated risks within your own ZBB? Gregors, what will your answer be to this question, please?
I think risk is sort of inherent part of doing business. So if you do the proper ZBB, meaning you go to the bottom of it and you understand your drivers and you know what comes from where, then integrating risks becomes almost a natural part, which is easy, of course, to say, probably much more difficult to do. And we saw from the presentation how much work it required. But I think with the proper implementation and proper execution of ZBB, it comes almost natural that the risks are reflected there. And in the event of such a disastrous scenarios like COVID, it's much more easier to adapt, because you are better positioned with your models, with your scenarios to address and answer the questions.
Absolutely spot on there. And you spoke about mindset before, Gregors. And once you do it once and people adapt to it, they know what they're doing and they know the length that they have to go to. And straight away, they know the business much more than anything else. Again, another point you pointed out, and to your point there, Mohammed, it becomes a lot easier. It's in their mindset. They are investigative as well as anything else. Thank you for that. Antonio, what would you like to add to this question, please?
Well, very simple. As you can imagine, SAP is a commercial organization, but also the customer that I'm visiting. Well, the key point of the risk is to be able to leverage the simulations, leverage the capability to identify the dependencies in order to see what would be the dependency if this happens, what would be the consequence. And this is exactly where artificial intelligence technologies can help. So clearly help in with simulation, with identify dependencies to help in assessing the risks.
Absolutely, and then this is the eventual next step that all those hard work takes us to, is simulation, looking at where we can go, where we should go, and what would happen if we did this, and how we then reallocate the resource. So that was fantastic. Thank you very much all for your comments, and thank you, Mohammed, for great presentation. Let us now turn our webcam off and look at the next polling question. So here, of course, we want to learn a little bit more about your risk aspect within your organization. So if you can vote, please. Does your zero-based budget take account of risks? Yes, we do 100%, and we constantly review them. We do it once a year as the budgeting process, and we're doing it. We manage risk completely outside of our ZBB. No, we do not manage much of risk, neither in ZBB nor outside. So yes, we do 100% and constantly review them. We do it once a year whilst we're doing our budgeting process. We only manage it outside, and no, we don't manage it at all. So if you can vote, please. I'll give it another 10 seconds. So I am now going to close, and then I will share the results. Sharing it now. So 14% says yes, we do 100% and constantly review them within our budgeting ZBB process. 28% we do it once a year whilst we're doing our budget. 58% say we don't do it in our ZBB, we manage it outside. And luckily 0% say we don't manage risk at all, which is great to hear. So if I may ask Mohammed and Antonio to join us and just give us some comments on this. If I can start with yourself, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you, Hans. I can see there is a good also percentage that some organization already consider the risk, which is 100%. I can see 14%, which is a great achievement. At the same time, also I can see 58% saying that the risk is managed outside of ZPP. Yeah, I saw some organization already calculating the risk outside of the budgeting, so they have to prepare like a slide called risk and ops slide, considering all the risks and opportunities which are on the top of their budgeting number. But if we can see a big risk or something more than 70% probability, I believe we have to consider it in our budget. So I believe running the risk before starting the budgeting or along with we are preparing the budget will help us to include the high risky items in our budgeting. And I agree to keep the low probability or the mid to low probability items outside of ZBB or of our budgeting. Yeah, so this is from my side.
Thank you very much. Antonio, what would be your comment? Antonio, are you there? You might be on mute. We don't hear from Antonio, but let me absolutely give you my point of view there. Absolutely to the point that Mohammed mentioned, managing it outside.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Antonio.
Sorry about that. I had a problem with my headset, so I had to reconnect it. So I would say for me, what is great is to see that there's risk awareness. Now, it is true that we see that is managed inside or outside the process, the zero-based budgeting process. But what is important for me is that, of course, from a technological point of view, it's important to offer these capabilities in all contexts. And even if people are saying that they manage outside, but I think that the fact of having managed it will be useful also for the zero-based budgeting process. This is at least what I have seen with some customers, is that in any case, they have the information, the experience on that, and they can use it, even if it is not part of the ZBB process, but it is in any case used as an information into the process.
Absolutely, yeah, spot on there. But I think you know, very definitely you are doing it, but it will be a fantastic thing to integrate it within the process. Then it becomes one process rather than two separate processes. So if things were to change, it updates your ZBB straight away. So let us now move on. Thank you very much. Let us hide this and move on to our next presentation, which is all about technology. And to deliver that, we have Antonio Ellie. So Antonio is from SAP, as you know, and today he'll talk to us about how technology can enable this move to ZBB. So over to you, Antonio, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I hope I'm ready now. I had a problem with the headset, so I hope you can hear me. So I would probably first of all start from the status as of today. So if we can see in the first slide that today we experience some challenges. What are these challenges? Well, people lack access to high quality data. We just saw how important it is to have high quality data for a ZBB process. So I would say this is probably one of the things that could also explain why people are reluctant to go this way, because they do not have the sufficient quality of data. And this point links to the second, which is the point of why don't we have this type of data? Well, we don't have this type of data because we have isolated the systems. And we do processes by copying data here and there and manipulating files. And then this gets a bit complicated. Becomes cumbersome, becomes heavy to do. And that's also the reason why this process can be complex to be done. So this is a second point that for me is interesting. Less than half of companies has this type of integration. So we see the lacks that are probably in some cases explaining why we don't go that way. And the third point, also important, is to see that people are aware of the importance of using new technologies, but they plan to use it, but they are not yet using them. And this is also interesting to match these figures with the figures that we saw at the beginning, saying, are you going to start your ZBB process? And somehow these are linked in the sense that if you have the infrastructure, the set of data, the set of information, the visibility, the drivers, the system that allows you to start this process, well, definitely the move will be facilitated. The move will be less hard. But let's now enter into the detail of what type of functionalities in terms of technology would help the process. So in the next slide, what we see is that we focus on the question of the ERP and the data warehouse. So they integrate the planning process with actual data, but also with operational data. ERP and data warehouse are very technical words, but in terms of functionalities, in terms of business outcome, we talk about finance and operational data. And clearly, this is fundamental in order to have the access to the relevant, to the right drivers. As we said, it is fundamental in this process to have the right driver, the right element, the right level of information that is requested there. So we spoke about agility. We spoke about the capability to have this source of information fluidly and natively into the process. Then we spoke also, we see the second point, that is the accuracy. Well, this is classical story. If you work on aggregated data that has been copied the day before or the week before, of course, this process will be cumbersome. The secret is to be able to have the right level of accuracy and to have fresh data, in the sense that to be able to source the information directly from the system, either financial system ERP or operational system, into the data warehouse. And the third point that for me is fundamental is the point of, well, reality is that we built a zero-based budgeting process in a bottom-up way, because it is fundamental to start from the level where operations happens. If we want to fuel growth, we need to start from where the growth happens. And this is also fundamental in terms of having a technology that allows me to have access to such level of details, such level of systems, sometimes different systems in different countries, but also different vendors. Why not? And this is important that the technology of the planning system can offer this type of integration. Now, this is from the point of view of an integrated system that can offer me the access to the right level of data. But now, how can I work on this data? And let's see what happens in the next slide, where I focus on the functionalities that modern technology can offer in terms of, for example, collaboration. A zero-based budgeting process requires people to work together. Work together means that I have to have a tool that is easier than exchanging email and then I receive the answer 2 days after, blah, blah, blah. I need to have the possibility to share easily. And it is true that, for example, the cloud technology allows me to easily exchange. If I see the way how customers use the technology, well, they want just to post a message. I don't know, I'm talking with you now, I'm receiving some pop-ups saying that you should do that. Now, I'm not saying that is good, but I'm saying that is useful. And it is true that allows me, after this presentation, to answer to the people. So first point, the importance of the collaboration, having an environment where I can collaborate. Second point, very important, as we said, we are growing the amount of data because, as you said, we touch P&L, we touch balance sheet, we touch finance, we touch operational. So we are growing the amount of data. With this amount of data, it's difficult from a human being to get insight, outcomes, identify, we will say, drivers, etc., etc. So it is fundamental that technology can help me in this process of getting information out of data. And that's why we moved from the first slide that was connectivity with the systems, so interconnected system, integrated system, to how technology can help to give a mean, a sense to this data. And then third, what we said also before, this is fundamental. We have risk specifically in this period, but we have, as you said, Gregors, we have always had risks in business. This is part of the nature of the business, and having the possibility to simulate what would happen if, and that the simulation is done in a reasonable amount of time, which is now, not just running something and getting the answer tomorrow. If I can do this type of simulation, if I can build multiple scenarios, I can also share these scenarios with the other contributors to the process, and at this point I can have something that is shared, that is decisions that are based on clear information and possibilities. And if now we put together all this with what you were saying at the beginning, moving from budgeting to FP&A, which is my last slide, well, what we see is that clearly why there's an X instead of an F, because as we said, we go beyond the pure finance part. And this is fundamental in terms of strategic alignments. There's no use in having me to plan. I don't know, I'm working, this is part of my job. I have the commercial responsibility of the sales of a set of solutions in a given geography. Well, for me, there's no point to make plan if I don't know exactly the size of the sales forces that I will have. And if I know that we are going to hire 10 sales, but I don't know how many are retiring, I will have only a partial information. So if I do not have this strategic alignment, I will take wrong decision. I will make wrong decision. Second, I think that was Mohammed, you were talking about the risk of the supply chain, create awareness and eliminate surprises. Why this is important? Because if I'm planning to do something, but I do not have the supply chain that is following what I'm planning to sell, well, this is just a plan that will simply not work. And this is even more true in all budgeting process, but specifically in zero-based, because I'm really trying to focus, as you said at the beginning, Hans, we are trying to focus on what can be a engine of growth. So I want really to be sure that where I'm putting my resources is what will work. So clearly this possibility to create this awareness. And finally, as we said, if I start from data that are detailed data, reliable data, bottom-up data, this will help me to make decisions that are faster, make decisions that are more, I will be more confident in this decision because I'm starting from something that is there, something that is concrete, that is material. So I would say if I can just conclude on this part, just to give out of these 4 or 5 slides that has been shared, just 2 key ideas. I would say, remember, when you look at a technological capabilities to support the process, zero-based process, this zero-based budgeting process, remember, first of all, the integrated platform. This is what can offer you the strategic alignment, the agility, the accuracy, the speed that are needed into this process. And second, look for technologies that are based on modern capabilities, artificial intelligence, that are necessary to collaborate, to simulate, to predict, to identify dependencies, to identify the right drivers. And this is what will support your zero-based budgeting process in a significant manner. I hope that this gave some ideas that can be shared. Of course, I'm open to any question that you may want to ask there.
Fantastic presentation there by yourself, Antonio. You've touched on all the different elements, and we've got some nice questions actually coming out, and of course they're directed to all 3 of you, but some on this very specific topic that you've touched. You know, I really like the way you took it through having an integrated system with all the modern features, you know, with simulation, AI, machine learning, and then you closed it off with XP&A. So fantastic, well said that. You know, we need all of that to take ZBB absolutely to that next level. You know, it really adds to the whole process here. So let us ask our other panelists to join us, and we've got some nice question here. Is how well does your technology help you with your ZBB? We know that everybody is at some stage of the process. What is that stage? So if I can ask Gregos to start off with. Gregos, tell us a little bit about, you know, how you work with technology.
So in case of my company, you know, when we took this decision to transform company, that also finance transformation is part of it, that came really with the same time with the decision to invest heavily in new processes and new technology, because it's always, I think we have to remember, technology is the end sort of end state, yes, but there are processes behind it, and it goes very well together. So in our case, that was this decision. We are in the process. This is, I must say, quite a journey. I think everyone, you know, expecting this to be done like this would be dreaming in colors. So we started. We are in the process, and we are getting better every day with this. But yes, I say technology is these days. Without technology, you will not be able to achieve this.
Fantastic, thank you for that. No, absolutely spot on there. And Mohammed, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I fully agree with Antonio for the importance of technology, and also with Gregos, because, you know, technology is a big help for finance professionals in many areas. Number one is connecting the dots and integrating the different silos across the organization into one platform. This is one big help, and helping us in integrated planning and integrated reporting and having enterprise performance management. So I believe technology is a big help in this area. The second area, which is simplifying the business, working in more efficient way, makes the, you know, budgeting process simple and efficient for our business partners, is another help. And the third one, which is very, very important, which is a governance. Without technology and without integrated planning, if every function doing the budgeting in separate spreadsheets or separate system or whatever, you cannot ensure governance. You don't know who did what, who deleted lines, who, you know, changing things. So technology helping us in the governance big time. And last but not least, quality in, quality out. So once we have a quality input, definitely we can deliver a quality budgeting as well. Thank you.
Fantastic answers there. Thank you very much, Gregos, and thank you, Mohammed and Antonio. Great presentation. Let us now hear from our audience, our members who've joined us today. If we can turn our webcam off and launch the next polling question, which is our last one today. So what we want to know here, and this has come from us, in that if you were to implement ZBB which of the following functionalities in technology would you be missing in your current budgeting system that you have? Enterprise-wide budgeting platform, collaborative budgeting platform, integration with financial and non-financial system, predictive artificial intelligence and BI engine, or is it all of the above? If you can vote, please. So what are we looking at that is missing from your current system in ZBB? Is it that it's not enterprise-wide platform? Is it that it's not collaborative enough? Second choice. Is it a lack of integration with financial and non-financial system? Is it that there is no predictive artificial and BI engine sitting behind it? Or is it all of the above? If you can vote, please, I'll give it another 5-10 seconds. So what is your current system lacking, basically? Please vote. I'll give it another 5-10 seconds. So is it enterprise-wide budgeting platform, collaborative budgeting platform that's missing, integrated with financial and non-financial that you don't have there, or predictive artificial intelligence and BI engine that is lacking, or is it all of the above? Thank you very much for having voted. Let me now close the vote, and I will share the response as well. So 8% say they would like enterprise-wide budgeting platform. 8% again want collaborative budgeting platform. 11% integration with financial and non-financial. 18% predictive artificial intelligence, and 55% all of the above. Why don't we get Gregors and Antonio to join us and give us some insight? Let's go to Antonio first, given that you are the technology person. Antonio?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm extremely pleased to see that you are demanding. All of the above, 55% is important. Be demanding with your technology suppliers. We are there to listen to your demands and do that. So yes, that's great, and I really appreciate that. But also, I would say that remember that it is fundamental, and I think that we all said that you have also the right level of sponsorship. Technology is important, but it's also a level of being having the willing and the sponsorship to do the project. This is also very important.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Antonio. And Gregors, what is your opinion on this poll?
Yes, so 55%, all of the above. I think there's a huge business opportunity for technology providers. Jokes apart, yeah, you know, there is a staging. I think we have a certain percentage of people that miss enterprise-wide platform, then collaborative and so on. My perspective or my 5 cents to this would be that, you know, this has to be built in steps. You know, you cannot go to predictive and artificial intelligence if you don't have your basis done. So maybe if I give an advice or my view is like, you know, start small and move on constantly and consistently with small steps. And at one point in time, you reach predictive analytics, and you will be very happy.
Absolutely. I think, you know, you both pointed out 55%, all of the above. So really, we can see the essence of what Antonio talked about in terms of a system, which is what people need to move ZBB to the next stage. Thank you very much for that. Let me just hide that now and let us move on to our next stage, which is, of course, our conclusion and recommendation sort of stage. So guys, why don't you please join us and we can have a very quick discussion about it. So please join us on the webcam. You know, what we've seen so far and what we've captured is it has to be an overall planning process, not just a one time, and it covers everything. P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, different ways of working. You have to get the buy-in from finance. You're dealing with uncertainty, but maintaining growth at the same time. And we've just seen from Antonio about integrated platform and new AI and technologies. Let me ask my fellow panelists, you know, if there is that one key conclusion, one key thing you would like to highlight again to our audience today, what would it be? Gregors, what would you like to say is key for you in ZBB?
I think, and this was was to me like the underlying message of all three presentations, that the ZBB goes far beyond what it was at the beginning of the journey. You know, it was started as a cost exercise. Now it is in many cases, and it should be really like integrated end-to-end approach to, I would even say, business management. It goes beyond budgeting. Like as Mohammed says, it goes to risk management and so on. And then with modern technology and then what's going on that field, I think it becomes easier to implement. But you know, let's not forget that again, system will not do the trick. I think still you have your processes and what's behind the system that need to work. And I think this is the key message, but they need to work in an integrated manner.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Mohammed, your key conclusion, please.
Yeah, thank you, Hans. Actually, my key conclusion is number one: FP&A is the heart of the organization. So we have to connecting all the dots, helping all of our business partners to collaborate together. We have to connect all the business aspects, and also we have to understand our business very well. Without understanding the business and without having the proper business acumen, our business partner will not allow us to attend the strategic meeting. So business acumen is our admission ticket to all of our strategic and key decision making meeting. Number two, let's leverage technology. As mentioned by Antonio, without technology, we're gonna lose governance. We're gonna not work in efficient way. People will get bored and get complaining about the budgeting process. So technology is very, very important. And last but not least, we have to consider risks and the balance between risks and ambitious plans in our budgeting process.
Absolutely. You broke the bank there, Mohammed, by giving us 3. Thank you for that. Antonio, your one key conclusion, please.
Well, difficult to add something after that everything has been said, but I would say really be demanding with your technology supplier, be demanding with yourself, I mean, with your team, because it is a journey. It is a journey. And I think that it is really the top of the iceberg in the sense that is what is visible, but underneath requires a full structure to be in place.
Absolutely spot on. I love that phrase, be demanding to your business, be demanding to your business partner, be demanding to your technology supplier as well, because you need to get what you want. So thank you very much for the key takeaways. We will now stay on and go to the very exciting Q&A session we have. Let me remind the audience, guys, please keep sending it till the end of the meeting. Whatever we can't answer today, we will answer them definitely via email over the next 2 to 3 days, couple of days max, I would say. So thank you for that. Keep sending them on. So now we start our very exciting Q&A session with the first question to Gregos. Gregos, thank you very much for taking us through our transformation journey, through how you implemented, the mindset change within ZBB. How did you manage people resistant to change towards ZBB or anything else during that transformation project? Was there anything particular you did? What are the steps you took?
I must say, we didn't face much resistance. I think it was in the organization was sort of common understanding that that's the way to go. And I think it starts with, probably with top management. The message needs to be really passed from the top to the bottom. The execution happens on the bottom, but the message comes from the top. And with this, I think if it's the right message passed in the right way, that does the trick. And then the whole organization is behind it. In our case, it was really around the business transformation. We introduced, I didn't talk about this, but if you go to our website, you will see you wouldn't say it's a tobacco or a cigarette company website. We are talking about unsmoking the world. Yes, and that was clear for everyone that we need to shift from old to new. Yes, and then in order to do it properly, you need to, understand what sits there, and that was this mindset across the organization. And therefore, I must say, we didn't face much resistance. The finance teams were very eager to do it, and the business was also very eager to do it, because everyone saw the ultimate objective and ultimate benefit of it.
That's a fantastic answer to a great question, Gregors. And I think the way your organization is tackled it, you were going to get resistance. So look at it beforehand. Communication, engagement, and people knowing the benefits of it, and people being part of the whole process from the beginning avoids resistance and resistance to change. So a fantastic answer there. Thank you very much. Let us look at a question for Mohammed there. Mohammed, thank you for taking us through the huge amount of work that you guys did on putting those risk strategies, looking at each individual risk, putting the input templates and all of that together. How much time did it take for you and your team to put all of that together? And again, was there much resistance there within the team? And once you did that, did that make life easier the following year? Of course, we're still in COVID, so please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hans. I believe it's a very good questions. So from timing perspective, the big part of the process, the time spent was in the designing of the checklist itself. So this is, I guess, was the longest part in the journey. But if you understand our business very well, if we have a very good relationships with our business partners, it made it easy, because I had to sit with everyone, but with understanding the business very well. I asked the right questions, and also I made some surveys. I spoke to other pharmaceutical colleagues in other pharmaceutical companies. I spoke to some people in the same industry outside of our organization. This has helped me to understand what are the key aspects and what are the key things that I have to consider in designing the checklist. So the checklist was the longest part, but other than the checklist, all the rest of the process was very easy, because we have already what are the key areas that we have to collect, what are the key lines we have to collect. So the consolidation and getting the data was a very easy part. So again, just designing the checklist, it needs full business acumen and full business understanding. But the rest of the process was very, very easy, and it was, like a ritual. I didn't see any resistance, because it was a help to our business partners. I helped them to quantify the risks for their functions. So it was a very good project and very good exercise.
Absolutely, and you do it once, you not only understand the business, you make it easier around the next time. So there's a whole learning curve there, but once you've gone through it, it's amazing. And also it also helps your business partner to better understand their business, their risk, how are you looking, and the ways you're working with them. So thank you very much for that, Mohammed. Excellent answer there again. Let us go to Antonio. Antonio, I've got a very interesting question here, and of course, the person says we're looking at two different approaches here. We're saying ZBB, and for ZBB, we should go back to the drawing board. We shouldn't look at past budget, past actual or whatever. And then we're also talking about looking at data and mining the data and AI. Can you please guide, or what is your thought around? They are two different things, but do they complement each other, or are we talking cross purposes here?
Absolutely, and that's a great question, because I think that what we should stick, this is also my personal approach in life, we should stick in what fit the purpose. What is the purpose of zero-based budgeting? It is not cost reduction, it is growth. So the point is, what can help me producing growth? The reason why I start from an empty paper is not because past is negative, it's because I don't want to keep putting money in things that are not bringing profit. That's the objective. So my point is that past can help me to understand how things has behaved, can help me understanding dependencies. So of course I use technology on past data to understand, and then based on this understanding, I built my future saying that I have understood that this depends on this and is not working because of this situation. Now, the future situation is that we have this new context. Therefore, with this driver, this is where we should put our money in order to increase our growth. So for me, it is not two opposite point of view, it is using the past in order to build a better future. And this is where you can find the dependencies, and this is you can find the new driver that you want to use. Then, of course, in some cases, you have some transformation where the past is not directly usable, and it is true. But even in this case, remember that the past can always give you some information. Even if you are changing that, and I think that this is the experience probably in PMI, is that yes, you are changing completely the model, but we learned about these dependencies and we can leverage these dependencies for our new model. So I strongly believe that we can build the future really based on the understanding of the past, and understanding does not mean reproducing. It is exactly what we say in the story of each human being, really. I think that that's the reality. Even I don't want to be philosophical, but it is true. Understanding the past will help us in the future, not to reproduce the past, but to do better.
Absolutely, and you know, great points there, Antonio. They of course complement each other. They don't work against each other. You have to understand the past, and now with the power of technology, AI, machine learning, it's the only way to understand the drivers that us people with our head, with our Excel or whatever it is, we can't understand. We have to have the help of that. And another key thing about ZBB is identifying those drivers. And one way, if not one big way of doing that, is exactly as you mentioned. So thank you very much for that. Great answer. I will put a very quick question to all three of you, and I want only one answer, is how would you implement, give me one step for implementation of ZBB. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, only asking for one thing. What, Gregor, so let's start with yourself. What is that one key you think you need to implement ZBB?
I think it's get buy-in from your team and from your from your stakeholders, if I can use this word.
Yeah. Fantastic. That was one of your conclusions as well, and one of mine as well. So brilliant there. Mohammed, what is your quick one step to add to Gregor's?
I believe understanding your business very well. This will help you to understand the key revenue drivers, cost drivers, and all the elements of the budgeting.
Yeah. And Antonio, last but not least.
After the two has been done, I would say the third one is do that step by step. Don't just make a big stuff, do it step by step with small steps and with small results.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you very much for answering all of those questions. And let me again talk to our audience and our FP&A board members. Please keep sending your question. We've still got 2 minutes. We will answer all of them via email, those we haven't. Members, just stay on the webcam. I've only got a few last slides to go through, and then we will finish off this session. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the year when we are doing our Empowerment Survey 2022. Thank you very much for all your help last year. All of those insights were shared with you guys. So please, again, it only takes 10 to 12 minutes. Help us, give us your insight into this. And of course, you will get a copy after that. The link is there. So please do that for us. Some dates for your diaries. Of course, 3rd of May, we are at the Digital Central European FP&A Board. We are talking about driver-based planning. We talked about drivers today. So how do we do driver-based planning, and how does it matter for FP&A? March the 3rd, FP&A Trends webinar, where we're talking about XP&A in action, enhancing FP&A agility with supply chain planning in particular. March the 10th, please put that in your diary and come and join us for those. Great time now to say thank you. Thank you, first of all, to our esteemed member of the panel who've put so much hard work into producing an excellent presentation, but also excellent insight and excellent answers to our questions. So thank you very much for making time. Thank you very much, FP&A board members and the audience, for making time to attend our meeting today. And last but not least, thank you very much, SAP, for making our meeting fantastic today. So thank you very much for that. And this is, guys, how you can get in touch with us. So please stay in touch, come and join us for the next event. And when I close this, please give us a few seconds of your time with what you want to hear as far as topic is concerned, but also how well we did. So with this, I'm going to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I will see you in the next meeting. So thank you very much. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. This terminates our session for today. Goodbye, good night, bye-bye.
Thank you.